What's up, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the channel. Tapping in with your guy Jamal, Lowered Up Credit Services. I am your credit protector. Today, wanted to talk about why you should avoid debt consolidation companies, and I want to give you 5 alternatives to show you how you can consolidate your debt yourself without being put in a trick bag. So let's get into it. So what is a debt consolidation company? So a debt consolidation company, pretty straightforward name. It's a company that helps you consolidate your debt. So a lot of times you're going to be using a company like this when you have, let's say, a lot of credit cards and you basically put yourself in what we call a debt trap, where the amount of interest you're paying on these credit cards is so insurmountable that just making your minimum payments is not enough, and you kind of feel trapped, right? So with a lot of debt consolidation companies, they target those who are basically in a no-win situation, in a tight bind, and they feel like this is their only option, right? They feel like they're out of options. There's nothing else that they can do. There are options, okay? So let's talk about what happens with the average debt consolidation company. I'm not saying all, but a lot of them work like this. So you sign up with them, and what they'll do is that they'll actually tell you to stop making payments on your debt. So you already know, if you're on this channel, we protect our credit. So ain't no way I'm gonna stop making payments on any of my debts. Why? Because that's gonna tank my score even more. If I have a ton of debt, right, my utilization is crazy. The next worst thing I could do is start missing payments. So already you know that's a red flag. Any company that's trying to help you financially and they tell you to stop making payments on your debt, already you know there's a problem. They'll tell you to stop making payments, and the idea is that you're going to stop making payments, you're going to start missing payments, because that gives them more negotiating power when they're talking to the creditor. So what they want to do is mess up your credit because you're going to start to miss payments. Then they are going to negotiate with your different creditors, whether it's credit card companies, personal loans, auto loans, whatever. And they're going to work out these various settlement deals with the different companies, okay? But usually it's credit card companies. Working out deals with them, settling the debt, okay? So a lot of times the original creditor, the bank, whoever you had your credit cards with, etc., will close the account and then say, okay, boom, instead of you paying us back $10,000, we settled the account for $5,000, right? And so what will happen is that the debt consolidation company, in a lot of instances, they'll either pay the creditors in full at that lower settled amount, or what they'll do is that they, create a contract between you and them where they'll say, hey, now we done settled all your debt. So instead of you owing $60,000, you now owe $35,000. And what's going to happen is that you're going to pay us, and then we'll disperse the money to these creditors on your behalf. Right now, that part doesn't sound that bad, right? They negotiated your debt and got you lower terms, okay? And they're even going to manage taking the payments, right? And instead of you having to do 5, 10, 15 different payments to all these different companies, now you just got one company to worry about, which is the debt consolidation company, right? So in that instance, that part of the deal doesn't sound bad. My biggest thing is this whole, we want you to start missing payments. Like, don't do that. Don't start missing payments on purpose. Especially if you already have high utilization, then you're going to start missing payments. You just destroyed your credit. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that, right? So instead of going through that process, you can actually consolidate debt yourself. Now, I understand that it may be necessary to use a debt consolidation company if your score isn't high enough so that that you cannot qualify for certain kinds of debt consolidation tools. But don't start missing payments. Like, don't do that. So, the first thing you can do is that you can get your own debt consolidation loan. Okay, there's a couple of ways to do this. They do have actual credit card debt consolidation loans. One company is called Happy Money. They do it, and they give you up to $40,000 to go towards paying off your credit cards. You could also get personal loans, a personal loan to pay off your credit cards, depending on the size, depending on the amount, of course. You can get a loan, your own loan yourself, to pay off your credit cards. Now you'll just have one loan to focus to pay on, right? Your credit card will be paid off in full. Now you just have this one loan to make payments on. You didn't have to call any other company. You didn't even have to settle and negotiate. Okay. The next thing you can do is that you can actually settle and negotiate over the phone with these companies yourself. You don't have to pay anybody else to negotiate debt for you. Okay, you can definitely do it yourself. So that's another alternative. If you don't, let's say you don't qualify for a debt consolidation loan, or you don't qualify for a personal loan, you can at least negotiate a settlement with the companies yourself. You don't have to hire anybody to do that. And it's okay to call these companies. They're people just like you. You don't have to be afraid of these people. They're not doing anything. A debt consolidation company isn't doing anything really different than what you can do yourself. So you can also do that. Another way to consolidate your debt is, let's say you have a pretty decent credit score. You have a 680, but you still have a lot of credit card debt, or the interest rate on your credit card is getting out of control. You can even consolidate your credit cards onto zero interest credit cards. So I'm gonna tell you, this is something that I actually did personally. This is how I know it works. I had about $25,000 in credit card debt that was actually accruing interest. And I was like, well, I gotta get rid of this. I gotta get rid of this debt, and I gotta get rid of this interest. So what I did was I applied for 3 zero interest credit cards simultaneously. When you're applying for credit cards, it's always great to apply for all the credit cards you want simultaneously. So I got approved for 3 credit cards in one day. The zero interest periods range from 12 to 18 months. So once I was approved for those 3 credit cards, I did a balance transfer from my old credit cards that were accruing interest to the new credit cards that were zero interest. And I was like, okay, now I have 12 to 18 months to pay off $25,000. And then, so that year and a half came, I did not pay off the entire $25,000 in a year and a half. So what does that mean? Oh, Jamal, you're going to get hit with interest. No, sir. No, ma'am. All I did was I applied for another zero interest credit card, did another balance transfer, and now I have another, I think at that point it was another 15 months of zero interest. So within that next zero interest period, I was able to pay off my credit card debt. Okay, so even with $25,000 in credit card debt that was accruing interest, I still never missed any payments. So at that time, I still had about a 680, 685, even with this massive amount of credit card debt. Okay, so these are some tips, some tricks that you can use in ways you can consolidate your own debt. Let me know your thoughts. Remember to like, subscribe.